Sometimes I feel stressed about being gifted. Really think that everyone knows what you know. They really don't because you're working at a faster pace.
Normal kids, but like just harder schoolwork.
Realize that I can do more than some people.
So it can be strange, but it has its advantages. I don't think gifted people are any different from people or people who don't learn as fast. It's just that we have the capability of learning fast, and that's not a bad thing. I know a lot of information, but most other kids
Excel in things like math, reading, science, all the basics.
With nearly 3 million academically gifted children in grades 3 through 12, meaning approximately 6% of the student population, I wanted to find out more about these students, as it was highly likely that they could someday be in my classroom. The following is a combination of research as well as an interview with Dr. Hamstra, Director of the Center for Gifted Studies and Talented Development at Burris.
It's a student who performs at or shows the potential for performing at an outstanding level of accomplishment in at least one domain when compared to other students in the same age, experience, or environment.
Okay.
So I have these two underlined because not all states do that. Some states just do achievement tests, which would be the performing piece. Not everybody does the potential. So for example, we know that about 6 to 10% of the population in the United States is high ability.
Okay.
But a lot of them are not identified. There are kids in the United States who can't afford to go to preschool, for example, but they might still be high ability. But when you just test for achievement, you won't catch some of them because they won't have the experiences that those other students have.
Okay.
So we in Indiana test for both.
Okay.
And we have found that has revealed it has increased our underrepresented populations.
Okay.
Because that 6 to 10%, I mean, it's not, it should be, race should not be a determinant either, or social economic, environment. So for instance, what's really fascinating for a lot of people who work with high ability students, when I tell them this, you see the same behavior problems between a struggling student who doesn't understand what's going on in class, they tune out, they become behavior problems, they act out. The same exact behaviors happen with high ability students when they're not challenged.
Yeah.
So if things are too easy for them, they tune out, they act up. So it's really shocking to teachers sometimes when, they're having trouble with a student who just doesn't seem to get it together. They have no focus because they're not interested. They're bored to tears.
Yeah.
Nothing in here is going to keep their attention. They're 2 grade levels above what's going on. When we tell them that they're identified high ability, they're like, there's no way. Because in their mind, it's a troubled student,
That's
So the
what they've
same thing
associated with that.
happens with students with disabilities. So that's fascinating, I think, for a lot of people to understand that just because you're a high ability student doesn't mean you're a high achiever.
Right.
So one of the biggest, actually I have that on my presentation too. I think this is helpful. Maybe I'll just show you part of this. It's helpful to distinguish between high achiever, high ability, and creative thinker. Let's see. Why is it that teachers are so often fearful of gifted children? They push the envelope. And from the teachers that I work with, they often underestimate what they can do. So that's a little challenging when you've spent hours preparing differentiated curriculum and you think it's going to be good for them, and then they come in and they know it all. So that can be really intimidating for teachers. A lot of what we do in our program is try to, first of all, train teachers to think high, overshoot what you think they can do. Go 2 to 3 grade level standards above. You'd ask about a couple strategies. The number one thing I tell teachers is before you start the school year, for the content. Let's start with content and then I'll go to social emotional. Okay. So content, how do you serve their academic needs? Make sure you have leveled readers. If you're teaching science, you're going to need more than one textbook or reader. So go to your high school teachers, go to your middle school teacher. If you're an elementary school teacher and you teach second grade, go to the 4th and 5th grade teacher, see what they're using for science because that will give you some ideas.
Okay.
If you're middle school, go to high school. So build your resource library is the number one thing I would say to have differentiated curriculum. Number 2 would be to put together anchor activity folders is what we call them. So normal students need about 7 to 8 repetitions of new material before they master it. Gifted students need 1 to 2. So you have a lot of time here that is wasted if you're making your gifted students repeat stuff they already know. Not only is it wasted time, but they're also they're tuning out, they're not developing study strategies. So anchor activities are things that students can go to work on when they have finished whatever they're working on. So all the students have pacing differences. So usually I suggest that my teachers have an anchor activity folder for each student. So then when they're done doing whatever their individual task is, they can go to their anchor activity and work on respectful tasks. You never want to ask anybody, no matter what level they are, to do something that's not respectful of their ability. If it's too easy or too hard, that's not respectful.
Right.
So having those on day 1 is important.